Welcome to the Fandom Foundry. This is the MakerCast. This is a show where I talk to awesome people who create and make the things we love. This week, I have a returning guest from the Fandom Foundry, and that is Mr. Ryan Scott. He is a reporter for Slashfilm and contributor at Fangoria. I also call him the box office guru. Ryan, it's early on a Sunday. You gave up your free time. Thank you for joining me today.
You're quite welcome. Once again, I believe the first time we did this, I had to apologize to you on the air because I screwed up and missed a date or something. And I did the same thing to you again. And I felt terrible about it. I have been like remarkably busy lately, and it was like it was the one thing I forgot to just put in my calendar, and then it just blew by. I felt terrible. So again, I am apologizing to you on the air. I am so sorry, Todd. And for those of you that do not know Todd personally, he's one of the nicest people I've encountered, like in the internet world. So I felt especially bad about it. But so I'm happy to be here, and I profusely apologize.
No worries. The world is busy, and that's why I always tell my wife, if it's not on the calendar, I can't guarantee I'll remember it. So
yeah.
And I've gotten better about using when I interview people and send requests. I like actually send them a calendar invite, so it's actually helpful. So I'm getting better about that. Especially time zones are weird, so sometimes it screws people up. But totally no problem. And I'm always willing to wait to talk to cool people and people that are very interesting. And Ryan, just for anyone who doesn't know you, I found you first on Slashfilm, where you would come and talk about box office results for the movie industry. And because I cared about that, because I think it's a growing trend that the box office summer wager, which I believe started at Slashfilm.
It did, yeah. Before Slashfilm got acquired by Static Media a handful of years ago.
Yes.
It was like an in-house thing that Peter Serretta, who founded Slashfilm, like he and then so what was weird is I never participated, I never was part of it, and people like always thought it was this kind of thing that I should do, and I just never really like got into it. But especially because the one thing I don't like about it is it focuses purely on domestic box office, and I am a global box office guy. Like I very much am about the global theatrical marketplace. That's one of my soapboxes, and yeah, they only focus on domestic, which I don't like.
It's very hard to understand like what the appeal is, obviously internationally too. Some people are like, I don't know if that'll play. Is it even being released in China? And that sometimes like it doesn't even get over there. So
a lot of times it doesn't. Yeah,
it used to be, but I think yes, because of something about our government going on, that might have changed opinions. And
well, not to get too off topic, but that's only part of it. There's even before the pandemic, China was starting to prioritize homegrown releases.
Mm-hmm.
So around 2017, you had movies like Wolf Warrior 2 making like $770 million in China alone. And then China kind of started realizing like maybe we don't need Hollywood that much. And then the pandemic kind of forced that hand completely. And then, then there's other issues as well. But so China now is really deprioritizing American releases, and that has been difficult for Hollywood. So anyway.
Oh, absolutely. It is good for international cinema, though, because then you get new voices that are, in some markets, right?
Well, I think the problem is that these Chinese movies, if you look at Ne Zha 2 last year, which is now the highest grossing animated movie of all time, did like, what was it, 2.2 billion, I think, in the end of it. It almost, I think 2 billion of it was in China, and so it doesn't travel. It's exceptionally strange. So you look at even like The Force Awakens, which is the highest grossing domestic movie of all time, which made just shy of $1 billion in North America. Well, that still did 2 billion worldwide. So it still made $1 billion in other territories. So it's good for like Chinese filmmakers, obviously, to have their voices out there and to have Chinese cinema, but that's also very regulated by their government, and it doesn't travel. Like it just does, so some people find it, but I find that part of it strange. So like, anyway, we should not get off topic, Todd. I should not.
No. This is why I like listening to you, because you bring such a perspective that's unique. So, and then obviously, then I learned you are a writer. You do pieces not only just on the film industry. I believe you've done some things on more horror, because you're a big horror guy too. So you've done pieces on like video game horror within Video Game 4, like Fangoria, I believe. You've done some pieces there. So it's neat that you are finding ways to, what people know you as, but also get into your other areas. So then people get to know more about what you do, can follow your work, and can see what you offer is really an interesting area in the entertainment journalism area, which I'm really interested in because it's an interesting area that I think is still brings joy while still focusing on very important things. It can have a very interesting bent. But with that, we do some of my friends and I, we've been doing a box office wager for 10 years, I think now. It's been a lot.
Really? Wow.
But
Okay.
yes. So it's been a lot. Once I heard it, because I was a big fan of Jeff Kanata because of the Totally Rad show he did before that. He was on the film. So because of that, I'm like, oh, this could be fun. And we on my old show, Secret Friendship Night, we talked about movies all the time. We'd always do a summer movie review and things like that. And so we just said, hey, let's do this competition. I brought it up. And it's just been something we do every summer. It makes it really fun. And it's always fun to see the movies that pop up, like was it My Dolores or Hey Dolores, that Sally Field film that came
Hello, my name is Doris. Yeah.
So we're like, what is this film and why is it popping up? And that was the lean era of the box office, I think, where it was like, okay, it's popping up. It wasn't on our list, and I think it fell off, but it was a funny surprise. But we're going to continue to do that in my new form with my group, which is going to be a lot of fun. So I will continue to look forward your expertise to hopefully lead me on to to win and not lose.
Well, what was funny is before Peter left Slashfilm entirely, he and I would do the podcast every once in a while, and we would do like a summer movie preview, and he would essentially be picking my brain for stuff. And but what I told, but I've said this. You can go back to the audio record. I have always said I'm a bad prognosticator. I am not very good at predicting box office, at least in terms of like specifics. Like I can sort of look at like I can smell a bomb coming a mile away usually, but and I can, I'm okay at guessing hits, obviously, but like the specifics, I'm not great. So like I'm a much better analyst, but that's another conversation.
But as someone who works at a company where we need analysts to help us look through the fog of war or the fog of business to lead us to maybe reasonable decisions or reasonable comps, is typically looking at comps, what they do, and number of theaters. Those are all things. And what is it? Somebody always says like the multiplier, which is always a good indicator of certain things.
That's so you call me the box office guru. The box office guru is a man by the name of Scott Mendelson. He worked at Forbes for a number of years. He has his own thing now on Substack. But Scott Mendelson is the box office guy. He is the one who knows. So he's big on the multiplier thing, and so am I. You should be, but it's that's where it gets in the weeds a little bit. But that's basically the how many what number times your opening weekend is your final number. So let's say you open to $50 million at the domestic box office and you get to 150 million domestic. That would be a 3 times multiplier, which would be very good. A 2.5 multiplier is average to good. Anything less than that is in trouble territory, generally speaking.
Well, very good. And Ryan is very modest. So just take there what you will, because I think he's always got great points of view. And but you had to have a journey to get to where you are now, Ryan. So really, I always ask people about their geek origin story. I mean, obviously, you weren't bitten by a spider. You weren't exposed to gamma radiation. But what were the things that led you to where you are now? I mean, what was kind of like those key parts of your youth that led to your education and working in this business how you are now?
So it's a lot of things, but I think that like the big one is that my mom is a big movie person, and so movies were always kind of a part of my upbringing. But then I think the big thing is like Star Wars, right? Like I don't have memories that go back further than my love of Star Wars, because my mom was a huge Star Wars fan, so indoctrinated me young. Had the Ewok movies on VHS, when the re-releases came out in '97, it was the biggest deal in the world to me. And then obviously like I was like 5 years old when Jurassic Park came out, that's my favorite movie of all time. And so there was a lot of these like key but then I also like Spider-Man, the animated series, X-Men, the animated series. That was where my love of like Marvel stuff and superheroes generated. And then reading comics and then, getting bullied. So stopping reading comics and eventually, but like all of these like prototypical nerdy things I was the right age for. And so that was big. And then, but yeah, but I was also young enough to like where superheroes weren't cool, really. Comics weren't cool. So there were parts of it that I had to kind of hide. But yeah, I've always just like really loved pop culture. But then what was weird as far as the box office stuff goes, because I guess that's what I'm known for most, is I don't know why, but like I remember, so when the first Spider-Man movie came out in 2002, that was an enormous deal. It was a big deal. And I still remember that was the first movie that ever made $100 million on opening weekend. And for some reason, when I was 14 years old, I think it was like Entertainment Weekly, like that was like reading that and then like becoming interested, because it used to be that like they would report this on the news. You would get like box office, like on Monday, the local news, or like in the newspaper or in magazines. And I would kind of become interested in what movies were making. And I couldn't really tell you why. I don't really know why, but I just did. And it was something that I paid attention to. And so it was just a weird thing that like, I think and I've talked a little bit about this, and I think it's important to talk about, is that I found out a few years ago that I actually have what they used to refer to as Asperger's. And I did not know that. And so I think it's like a function of that, like the numbers and the gamesmanship of that. And let me just say, learning that at like in your mid 30s, like unlocks a lot of stuff for you. You're like, oh yeah, a lot of things make sense. But anyway, but yeah, so and then that sort of like, I eventually started writing about movies. I went to school for journalism, and then people found out that I knew a lot about this. And then Slashfilm really fostered me writing about box office more. I did it at my old jobs, with Slashfilm like really let me lean into it. And so for the last like handful of years, I've kind of become, humbly, I can say that if you were to look at like, there's probably a top 10 people in this industry that do what I do, I would probably humbly put myself in that, in that 10. I other people might argue, but I would, I'm not ranking it. I'm just saying I'm probably one of the people that you would point to that does this. So, yeah.
I was going to say, one thing that you always should do is embrace your successes, embrace what you're good at, and be humble about it, what you're doing, but never whenever I've done an interview or fought for a job or something, they've always say, don't talk about others, talk about yourself, because we know you're going to be good to other people and foster that. We want to know what you're good at. So some people like myself, I'm not good at saying what I'm good at. And so I you know what? I appreciate it that you're humble, but you are good. You're at a place where so many people have not been able to get there.
Well, I think the thing that I would say is like, I'm not going to rank, but like, I know like the data backs it up. Like I have the foundational knowledge. I have thousands of published articles. I have lots of, I have like the proof to like, I can say that I've done, I am one of the people that does this. Like if you need an expert on this topic, it would not be unfair to consult me, and I'm proud of that. But yeah, like I love it. So I'm happy to say that I've accomplished that. But yeah, so that's the long way of saying that like just pop culture was a big part of my life, and here we are.
And if anyone's watching on a screen, they can see stories by Ryan. It's right on Slashfilm. He's been with Slashfilm, I think it's since 2021. Is that right?
2021, yeah. So things have changed a lot. We write a lot more like SEO focused stuff now. Like, so scrolling through all of my credits, there's a lot of stuff that I write that's just, the reality of the businesses today. The stuff that pays the bills is just, just basic stuff. But like, fortunately, like, Mondays I get to write a lot about, box office typically. And because again, like I play Monday morning quarterback with box office stuff, like where like I look at the numbers and then I go, okay, what happened? What can we learn from it? That's my thing. The thing I'm most proud of, if you go to Slashfilm's archives, it's no longer a thing, but I had a column for almost 5 years called Tales from the Box Office, where I would look at either a hit or a bomb from box office history and kind of really go over the whole movie in like fine detail. And yeah, that is one of the things that I am most proud of in my entire career. So if you ever want to look up it, just look up Tales from the Box Office, and there's a lot of things I'm really proud of there.
Very, very cool. And I made this a little too big. There we go. I love those stories, and I think the stories behind the movies are amazing. I love that people can document those. That's why I love like the movies that made us. I love even like Shudder has a lot of really good documentary series on like kind of like cursed movies. You know,
the history of horror is really good. Horror Noir is an excellent documentary about the history of Black horror.
And they have a new one coming about basically women.
1,000 Women in Horror, I believe it's called.
I saw this. I'm like, I've got to resubscribe to Shudder. So like, I love that because Bravo used to do what is it, the 100 Scariest Moments in Horror?
Yeah.
And it was, and I don't know what happened to that series. Like, you can't find it now because it was on Bravo and they moved it.
They also did one called like it was something like 100 Scary Movies you maybe haven't seen or something, and that was when I learned about the movie Frailty, which Bill Paxton directed.
Oh, great film! Great.
If you have not seen Frailty, people are always looking for like underrated horror gems or whatever. It's kind of gotten its flowers, and
Matthew McConaughey in that too.
Matthew McConaughey, before Matthew McConaughey was, I hate to say this, there was a point where Matthew McConaughey was not a good actor, and there was a point where he was a good actor. This was sort of in that in-between part, and Frailty was one of the things from his earlier career that's actually really good. Frailty fucking rocks. If you have not seen Frailty, check it out.
I remember seeing that when I was in Saudi Arabia. I got a bootleg copy, and this was 2002, sent to me in 2002, because that's how I survived. Because I mean, I wasn't able to see movies because Saudi Arabia was in a weird spot. But Ryan, one of the things you said about the box office and you know, growing up in the numbers, it wasn't really reported much. And also you talk about like you know, being diagnosed late in life with something. I was diagnosed a year and a half ago with ADHD because my son has ADHD.
Oh, okay.
And then my wife saw commonalities between me and my son. She also saw between my mother and myself. And she's like, you should really get this checked out, because I always thought I was just kind of easily distractible. So it's helped a lot. It has helped.
What is it with like good women in your life figuring things? Because that was my wife was the one. She's a social worker and had to go through, or she's in social work. She's not like a client social worker, but she's the best thing that ever happened to me. But it was like somewhat early on in our relationship because she had to go through a lot of these things like in college and figuring this stuff out. And then she's like, just one day we were laying in bed and she's like, have you ever looked into, you could tell she didn't know how to ask me. She's like,
it's a nudge.
Being on the spectrum. And I was like, what? No. And then I think it's important to talk about this stuff. So the only reason I talk about this, and then I was like, I thought about it. And then they have like these online assessments you can take. So it was like the next day, I think I took like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
And they obviously can't like tell you if you are or not, but then like, they'll, you know, at the end, like if you're not, they'll have like, based on our results, you're, you know, it doesn't seem. And then like all 3 or 4 of the ones I took, basically the answer was like, yeah, you should look into this further, you know, basically to be like, and I was like, oh no. And then, there were a bunch of therapy and other things. And so, but yeah.
It's amazing to get help, because it's sometimes you feel like it's your problem, you're bad, all these things. So it really helps you feel like what is in your control, what are you managing, and help your people that you love know that that's what you're going through. So then they understand, oh, he's not just being a jerk, or is that it's, you know, something he's dealing with, trying to be better.
It's the type of thing that I too think it's important to know that you have it. It's important to know, because it's also like, I don't want to make it other people's problem, and I don't want to use it as an excuse. But you can't really address something unless you know what the problem is. And I don't want to refer to it as a problem. I don't think that, but the point is you can't address something if you don't know what the root cause is. So like, but also like realizing it, and like watching something like even The Accountant 2 last year, where like I liked the first Accountant. It's a fine movie. The Accountant 2 does a much better job at representing someone on the autism spectrum. And there are moments, I'm going to start crying thinking about it, but there are moments in that movie that I really like tapped into, because it like, you know, it's like you feel seen, and you know, and it's like, and it's because you feel it can make you feel like alien and like, what is wrong with me, you know, and it's important to like, it's been immensely helpful to me to figure out that, so I don't know. The only reason I talk about it when I get the chance is just because like I feel like probably a lot of people in my age bracket who are that, mid 30s pushing 40 millennial were not in that, we're kind of one toe in both camps, right? Where like they started diagnosing it more, but a lot of us probably missed it. And so it's like you just have wandered through life with like, but yeah, so it's, for anyone else in my shoes, maybe worth looking into.
Oh yeah, Gen X crowd. Yeah, we were definitely not the diagnoser. We were just the bad kid who couldn't pay attention. And just seeing my son, what he went through emotionally with his ADHD at a young age, where basically he felt like he was the bad kid, couldn't control himself, and it really builds a lot of empathy where it's not there. And I'll just say one episode recently of Abbott Elementary dealt with ADHD, and one of the teachers there, he was a new teacher, had ADHD, and some of the older teachers basically saying, oh, they just medicate anything. So it was a good way for him to could basically advocate for himself, to let him know, because it obviously knows he's going to be advocating for his students, and he wants some of these older teachers to have some empathy too. So it was great that we're getting this word out. And yes, we don't want to be a crutch, we don't want to be an excuse, but we do want people to understand, like, hey, I know there's a thing that is extra about myself that is part of me, but doesn't control me. So the more you know, as the logo goes by. Well, but I did want to point to something else from my past that was very similar to yours. When I was in Air Force ROTC when I was in college. So when I went to field training during the summer of 1995, I was at San Antonio, Lackland Air Force Base, had one phone call my whole time while I was there. My mom could send me things. So my mom sent me a copy of USA Today, and I was a huge Batman fan, and that's when Batman Forever came out.
Yeah.
And I was so angry. I was at field training when I couldn't see it, and then she showed me, I saw the headline, like, Batman Forever, biggest box office opening ever. It made me so frustrated, but so happy to see something I loved as a geek do so well. It made me feel like, oh wow, I was like represented. But other people are also geeks. They don't like to say it.
Yeah, not for nothing. Batman and Robin, pretty indefensible still, but like Batman Forever has held up really well. I think like it's very comic booky, but like in a good way. Like I like Batman Forever, and I also will go so far as to say I think Val Kilmer is the best Bruce Wayne we've ever had. Not the best Batman, but Val Kilmer was an outstanding Bruce Wayne. Like he truly, that's what Bruce Wayne, because I always felt like, for as much as I think The Dark Knight is one of the best movies ever made of any kind, Batman is the weakest part of that movie. Like Christian Bale is not a great Batman, and he's an okay Bruce Wayne.
I totally agree.
It's just, but the movie is so good it doesn't matter. Like it truly does not matter. He's a much better Batman in The Dark Knight Rises, which is a whole other competition entirely. But yeah, Val Kilmer, because I watched Batman Forever not long ago, and it's like Val Kilmer's like that is Bruce Wayne. That is what Bruce Wayne needs to be. It's what it should be. Batman Forever is very, very, the production design's great. So it revisit it. It's a good time. But we were talking before this started about Batman Returns, and that being much darker than the first Batman. Part of the reason Batman Forever did so well is that it was like, oh, look, it's colorful again. And there's like it's at the height of Jim Carrey's career. And there's all these things. And it's like, and it was like a response to Batman Returns. And that kind of like people latched onto that, and it really worked out.
I agree. It actually, this is an interesting correlation. To me, Batman Forever is a lot like Thor Ragnarok.
Absolutely.
Then the Love and Thunder, then you get the Batman and Robin. It's like where they took something that worked because it was didn't go full, ice or Mr. Freeze, but it did enough so it felt like a good palate cleanser.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, we're doing something new. Had that, killer song by Seal, and
Kiss from a Rose, still a great song, by the way.
Yeah, and then you went too far. And it's the same thing with Love and Thunder.
Although the only thing that I will say though is Batman Forever or Batman and Robin killed the franchise, and because the financials would tell you it was just atrocious. Mm-hmm. Thor Love and Thunder, the financials would tell you, for as much as people like us complain about it, the average person seemed to like it just fine. Thor Love and Thunder made a lot of money.
I agree. I saw some issues with it. I wasn't like the person was the worst. It was kind of like there's other movies I
no,
like
I strongly dislike Thor: Love and Thunder, but I'm saying that like I mean, it made a tremendous amount of money, so it's hard to. But anyway.
Yes, I just let you know, some transparency. Thor is my favorite Marvel character, but I do feel like I did not like the first two movies that much. I thought the second was horrific, what they did with some of the characters, because I think they could have done some really cool things. I just felt it didn't have a strong direction, didn't have a strong feel of what it was doing. It was also, I think, in a weird state of the MCU where it was like everything has to connect, and that kind of overtook some of the quality of the movies themselves.
Phase 2. Also, I'm sure people know this, but Patty Jenkins was originally supposed to direct Thor: The Dark World. She was attached to it for a little while. I forget. She left, I believe, over dreaded creative differences. But yeah, then
creative differences at Disney. Or Lucasfilm. Never heard of that before.
I would still be curious now, after obviously what happened with Wonder Woman and stuff, to see what her version of Dark World looked like. But
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, so Ryan, that takes us to, I think, is there anything else we missed in your life that got you to the point where you are now? I know you talked about you went to school, then Slashfilm. They were a big part of, finding that creative area.
Yeah. So I guess the very short Cliff Notes version of it is that I when I went to college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I did theater in high school. I thought that I was going to do like theater and things like that. And then that didn't work out, whatever. Right? And then so I went to school originally for audio production. Music was my first love. So I was going to do hopefully producing music. And I graduated right when home audio gear made a monumental leap in quality and affordability, where you could then make good stuff at home. So most studio jobs were for smaller bands who needed to make, local albums, things like that. All of that went away because you could do it at home. So I graduated right when all that stuff made just a monumental leap. So I had no idea what to do. And then I liked writing in school. So then I was like, well, I guess journalism is a job where you can make money writing. I didn't even really fully understand what journalism was. So I went back to school for journalism and fell in love with it. And I thought I was going to be more of an actual news guy. And then I was freelancing while I was in college, writing for a very small website that no longer exists. And one of my editors at the time was like, hey, you seem to know a lot about this pop culture and movie stuff. Why aren't you writing about it? And that had never occurred to me. And, thus begins the journey.
That is amazing. I love it. I also like people that lead you to your path, help you realize, what you're good at, and say, you should do that, versus I never considered that, because you think it's can I build my passion with my craft, my job? And so it's awesome when you can do that. I always like to say in my career, thankfully I've been able to add a little bit of my personality into what I do, which is often very sterile. Not many people want to know about the supply chain of things, but I try to at least blend in a little bit of stories from outside of my experience into a corporate culture to add a little bit of that spark of okay, or learn about what other people are doing. I want to learn about how they ship iPods. Well, it's different than shipping cereal. So sometimes maybe what they do, it's that synergy between the brands. So so with that, I think we kind of covered. So how did you officially become the box office guy at Slashfilm? Was there just some discussions to say, hey, we need somebody to talk about what's going on from a financial perspective, and you raised your hand, or people stepped away and you were the last man standing? How did that happen?
So what happens? Especially when I first got to Slashfilm, there was it was very much, because the problem is the internet's changed so much. So the type of stories that people read and the things that traffic have changed a lot. But when I first got to Slashfilm, it was much easier to inject a lot of personality into articles and things like that, and have them still be very successful. And so what you find, most people that end up doing movie writing and pop culture writing, is they are creative, really truly creative people. And they want to be critics, and they want to have their opinion out there, and they want to do these things. So if they don't have a box office person on staff, when you have to write about box office on Monday morning, nobody wants to do it. Because nobody cares. And so what happened is someone else was doing it when I got there. and it was when Shang-Chi, I believe, opened, and it had like
the first post-COVID.
Well, it was the
in COVID.
biggest Labor Day weekend opening ever at the time, and I,
That's right.
if my memory is that I just started expressing excitement about it in the Slack channel we had, and sort of talking about it, and then they had me write about it, and so then like they realized that I knew a lot about it, and that I was bringing like a knowledge and passion to it that just the other people were just grinding out word count and sort of, and I was like, oh my God, like I was like into it. And so they were like, okay, go, like, you know, so I would, so like come Monday morning when we're writing about this stuff, I would have like some factoid about what it had done, or so I could craft a headline in a direction of a piece better than someone else could, just because I had knowledge about it, I cared about it, I had a way in. So, you know, my editor was like, okay, Monday morning, this is your thing now. You're coming to me with what open, and we're talking about the way to talk about it. And they just let me lean into it. And then I would start talking a little bit more about movie business stuff. At the time, there was a lot of issues around. Keep in mind, in 2021, we still had no idea what the business was going to look like. The box office was still on life support. This was the year that Warner Brothers put all of their movies on HBO Max the same day they went to theaters. So there was a lot of concern about, like, is there going to even be like functional box office moving forward? So I was writing a lot about like these industry trends and issues, not even just specifically box office, but like, okay, is there going to be more hybrid releases in the future? Budgets are a huge issue, and just kind of doing more informed reporting and things about the business itself and things around box office, because I cared about it. I like, so that like, and again, because most people on staff, they don't like, they might understand that it's important, but they don't have the passion to write about it. Whereas like, that's the shit that I love. So I was like really leaning into it. So they were like, it was kind of a twofold thing where they were like, you know, I loved it, but they were also like, oh, now we have someone who like really can do this well. And so they gave me, I will thank them for the rest of my life. They gave me the platform to find, I had written about this stuff when I could at my old job. I'm not going to say what that job was, whatever, you can probably find it if you look, but I was not necessarily encouraged to lean into that stuff at my old job, but I would write about it when I could. But Slashfilm really was like, no, go with God. Do like, this is what you do now. And obviously I write a lot of other stuff, but this was, you know, sort of became my specialty, and I really got to lean into it. And then I got to start the column there shortly after, which is still my favorite thing that I've ever done. So it just really became my thing. And then, you know, Scott Mendelson kind of became a friend, even though he was the guy that I looked up to. And then we, you know, it was all these things that just, it all converged, and it was really nice. It was great.
So with that, obviously in journalism, sources, all those things, I know in a lot of sales data, there's what was it, Nielsen, NPD. Now I think it's Circana. We use that data at my company. We have to know what consumers are interested in, their buying patterns, things like that. With the movie results, in regards to that, I know, and you always talk about like it's not finalized. Is there like one source of truth for that that actually compiles it, that you're able to get that data from?
So generally speaking, so what happens is with box office reporting is you have over the weekend, you get estimates. They're always very, very close. So what it is, it relies on the studios report the box office to, there is a ComScore is the industry standard for like at the end of the year. They're the ones, ComScore is the one that compiles like, this is what the total domestic box office for the year was. This is what the total global box office for the year was. So ComScore is like the industry standard for like that data reporting and stuff. And they do a lot of reporting for other industries like games, things like that. But for the average person, for like me, and I use ComScore for certain things, but Box Office Mojo, a site called The Numbers. They're actually currently undergoing an enormous website reconstruction. So like, a lot of the stuff that I use for reference is not available right now, and it's driving me crazy. But yeah, Box Office Mojo and The Numbers are the two big ones. So Box Office Mojo was purchased by Amazon some years ago, and they redid the website, and it was less helpful than it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, but yeah. So what happens on Sunday about now, you'll get the weekend estimates, and so you can see the top 10 at the box office, whatever. That's always very close to what it ends up being. Now then Monday, what'll happen at some point, is the numbers usually updates first. And the numbers will get the weekend what you call the actuals, which is where, okay, so we have the estimates so you can write about the box office, whatever, but now we'll get the actuals. And that changes things sometimes where like, it's like, okay, sometimes you have a really close race for number 1 or number 2, and sometimes the actuals will change that. Or sometimes it'll be like, okay, what was the number 5? What was the number 6? Did a movie reach a milestone? Like, did it cross 100 million at the box office? Okay, maybe sometimes the actuals might make it so it's a couple 100,000 away from that when we thought it was actually there. So it's like, it's for the average person, it doesn't matter. For me, sometimes it matters a great deal. So what'll happen is I'll write a lot of stuff Monday morning based on the estimates, but then the actuals might change that a little bit. But typically the numbers in Box Office Mojo are the two things that you will lean into the most.
And that's interesting because obviously you always have like the week 2 advertisements for the movie be like the number 1 box office and blah blah blah. So but
the studios know that. The studios are the ones that have that information. So if the studio is saying and again, most of the time it's not close. Like, it's not close enough for it to matter. Like, you and the thing is, they're not getting into the weeds with it like I am, right? So like, if you're just boasting you had the number 1 movie, it's pretty easy to tell that. Like right now I'm looking at the weekend charts. Project Hail Mary made an estimated $80.5 million, and there's a lot to be said about that. The number 2 movie of the weekend is Hoppers with $18 million. It's not close, so you can, Project Hail Mary gets to put number 1 movie in the world or whatever on its advertisements for the week because that's easy enough to do, right? So like, it's go to the numbers right now. So Box Office Mojo won't report that for a minute. But you can look at the dailies. So there you go. So you got the daily chart there. But yeah, you go to the numbers where if you go to just see full chart. And then so you can see there, that's the estimates for the weekend. So Project Hail Mary. And if I'm not mistaken now, let me look up something real quick. So Project Hail Mary, that $80.5 million. This is one of those ones where it's going to be close. Okay, so Oppenheimer opened to a little over $82 million. That is currently the biggest opening.
So you're looking for a claim, right?
You're
looking for that claim. Somebody will say something.
I am. Yep. So Oppenheimer currently holds the record for the biggest opening weekend for a non-franchise movie with 82.4 million, I believe. So Project Hail Mary at 80.5, it's close. So it's going to be the number 2. Now, it had the biggest single day. It had the biggest Friday ever for a non-franchise movie. Wow. But so
is this a PG-13 movie? I mean, I did see it with my wife on Friday. It was where the rare movie
PG-13, I believe. Right, yes.
Okay, great. Because I know with Oppenheimer, a lot of it was like R-rated too.
Yeah. So there is this. So I believe that you could then claim the biggest opening for a PG-13 non-franchise movie.
There you go. See, Ryan, that's how you spin it. Now you got your.
Yeah. So there's a but yeah. So so there's actually a lot to be said about that. But yeah. So this is Monday morning. What I'm doing is I'm looking at this chart. I'm going deep. This is just the start. Then you dive deep. Yeah. You have to know comps. Like, most people wouldn't have known that Oppenheimer thing offhand. I did. No. So it's like there's a lot of things that you have to kind of. And that's domestic. That's not worldwide. That's not international. It's that there's a lot of things to factor in there. But yeah.
Yep. And Ryan, I know with getting used to the way you would talk about things, you would then point out a movie that nobody had ever heard of called Durandar the Revenge, right?
Or like there's things that, there are things that you do know as foundational knowledge where like if you do this long enough, you do have like these stats in your head of like, again, your average person in North America does not even know what Ninja 2 is. But I now know that, it overtook Inside Out as the highest grossing animated movie of all time, or, things like that. So you do have these comps and especially for the big benchmarks in your head, you do try to file that stuff away.
Yeah. And you typically will talk about a lot of things about, theater counts as well. Obviously, you've got to have number of theaters to fill up.
That's important.
Yeah. Yep.
Because you have what's called per screen average. So if you look at if you look at right there, if these numbers are correct, that at the number 3 spot there, that would be an Indian import, which has been popular since RRR hit really big. But if you look at the per screen average there, what is that, close to $10,000 for a per screen average?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It is. Yeah.
9.6.
Yeah.
So
And it's
that's
not
going to
even
be
close to the others. Yeah.
that's going to be by far the best per screen average in the top 15 there. But then you have Mark by Sophia down there, which only opened on 2 screens, but it did 23,000 per screen. So that's where this stuff matters, right? Like because that means what that means is that individual theater did that much business, that individual screen. So you can have a movie like Undertone, which did $3 million, but that's 2,000, or Wuthering Heights now, but you're only getting 601 per screen. Those screens are not very full. Whereas that 9,000, that is jam packed. Everyone at those theaters. So the per screen average is enormously important. It tells a different story. The raw number doesn't tell the story. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, it's always insightful to me too, because I know a lot of the foreign films also, depending on your regionality, your ethnicity makeup, you may have more theaters in that area that play those films because there's an audience to, like in my area, there's a lot of Indian families. So we get one theater. I always know I'll be able to see like a selection of movies I've never heard of before. I'm like, that's cool. There's a place for them to see these movies.
Yeah, and that's all theater bookers have to know that. The studios that get the domestic rights to these movies have to know that. But yeah, that's been an interesting trend in recent years in the pandemic era, where like anime, these Indian imports, things like that have all done really well. And also like re-releases of popular movies are something I talk about a lot, where you need stuff that can get people into theaters reliably. And so for those theaters that played that Indian movie this weekend, they're thrilled because that gave them full screens other than Project Hail Mary, right? Like that's something. So
they get less of a cut, right? They also get less of a cut of that movie,
well,
right?
it depends. So like I don't know what Amazon's terms are, but Amazon is not necessarily specifically in this to try and like make money at the box office. They're ultimately trying to service Prime Video, but they also don't want a $200 million movie to flop either. So they'll probably give friendly enough terms to the theaters, but like Disney has famously at points been like, you want to play X movie, we get 60% of the weekend. So sometimes but that's all negotiated with. Like the general rule of thumb is that theaters keep about half of the money from ticket sales. So that's one thing that gets confused at the box office. You'll see like amateur Twitter accounts that report like X movie had a $200 million budget and it's made $210 million worldwide. It's profitable. It's like, nope, that's not even.
You've talked about that too. You have a calculation of like actual production, marketing, other things too.
There's all kinds of, and that rule of thumb math has gotten more complicated because the rule of thumb for a blockbuster used to be that you would double the budget to account for marketing. So a $100 million movie, $100 million marketing, $200 million cost. You would need about $400 million worldwide to break even because of the 50% theater cut. That math still checks out, but the problem is marketing budgets have changed a lot. So like you can't just double the budget anymore to account for that. But like, anyway, I'm the autism is showing. I'm starting to really ramble. But you get the idea.
Yeah. This is the passion. I love numbers too. Even love talking about video game numbers, all these things. When the numbers come out, like, oh, and then nobody reports and nobody does this. And sometimes
but the problem with video games, the problem with video games is they are tremendously expensive. Like AAA video game production now, you think movies are expensive? Like, oh my god! Like the AAA video games, as I understand it, are in a lot of trouble because the production costs are so expensive. And if you don't like hit it out, that's why studios close and that's why people get laid off and that's why like video game production is a mess. But anyway, that's a whole other thing.
And there's no transparency because Sony will never say we spent this much and this is how much we made. Even like Circana now does video game numbers. Matt Piscatell is an amazing analyst at Circana. He always has great takes. He loves baseball, but he's also very tongue in cheek about some of the data. They only get the physical sales data from like actual marketplaces. Some people will give digital numbers, and then Nintendo will be like they only give the physical side, they don't give the digital. So it's like it's very hard to like, and people say,
but also the vast majority of people are buying games digitally now, so that doesn't tell you anything.
Which hurts my soul because I'm the only people on the planet that still uses GameFly. Ryan, they're the only rental service that also still will let you rent movies too.
Yeah. Because Netflix discontinued in 2023. They finally discontinued the DVD service.
So I do have a question though. Amazon, we've got these non-traditional players. We've got a lot of craziness with HBO and Warner Brothers going over to Paramount. We know that drama with Netflix.
Yeah.
One of the fears at Netflix was movies would get a shorter window, if anything.
Yeah.
But with Amazon, do you have any idea of like how long they're going to keep their movies in on screen?
Their windowing is a little different. It varies movie to movie. So sometimes they'll put out a really small movie, and obviously you're not going to keep that in theaters for like 6 weekends or whatever, you know. But the thing is that like Amazon, they have been very boasting about their like, hey, we're committing to, I think what 10, I forget the number, but they're committing to a fair amount of big movies in theaters per year now. And but the math for Apple and Amazon is so different. So like when I talk about like a Warner Brothers movie, like Wuthering Heights is a good example, where like that movie had an $80 million budget. And, you know, that means you have to make probably at least 250 million worldwide or 225 worldwide to even start to consider that a success, because there is a certain amount of money that you just need to make, you know, because the box office is an enormous part of your profit sector there. It's not the only. You're going to get VOD, you're going to get DVD, there's some merchandising, there's obviously HBO Max. So like you don't have to profit purely from the box office, but you have to make an enormous amount of that money back. Whereas with Amazon, they have like $1 trillion market cap. So like, and I'm not kidding, like it is an enormous, so to them, $200 million is couch cushion money. But you also can't just lose that. You can't just throw it away. So what they need is for these movies basically to make back their marketing budgets and stuff like in theaters is what I've heard. Because then, okay, so let's say you can make back the marketing, but let's say you're Amazon and you go, we're going to make this movie. We have tons of data now that shows movies that get robust theatrical releases do better on VOD, streaming, every other down the line window. They make more money if they go to theaters first, and they do. And even if they don't make money purely in theaters, they do better. So for Amazon, they go, okay, we ultimately want to service Prime Video. $200 million big blockbuster with Ryan Gosling, very well reviewed, all that. Treasure. Okay, you give it a robust theatrical release. It gets talked about a lot more. You get a lot more attention because you had that big marketing spend for the theatrical release, IMAX, all this stuff. You got posters all over the place. Okay. All these people seeing it in theaters, talking about it, and then it eventually goes to Prime Video, right? So as long as you make that marketing spend back, Amazon can then go, okay, we now have all this buzz and attention and talk that then funnels to people will then watch it on Prime Video. People will buy the Blu-ray, people, whatever. Like, so I can see that logic for a company that big. So I don't know what their number is. I don't know what number they have to hit to be happy with Project Hail Mary. I guarantee you an $80.5 million opening, they're doing fucking backflips right now. Yeah. But yeah, I don't, you know, worldwide, I don't know what the number is that makes them happy. I'd sort of predicted ahead of time, if you could get around 400 worldwide, they'd be very happy. You're now pretty much probably, I don't know what it did internationally. I'm pretty sure you're assured to hit that now, you know, like, because it's doing exceptionally well. Like, I think it's on track to maybe get like an A+ cinema score, which never happens. Wow. So like so for Amazon, the math is going to work out. It was the same thing with Apple last year. They really needed one of these to hit, and then right? Then F1 hit. Now F1 was remarkably expensive, like, but Apple didn't need it to profit. They just needed it to make a number to save face. They made 650 worldwide. I think it's in the mid 600. Best Picture nomination. Apple is thrilled with that. I promise you. Like any studio would be, right? But like, you know, so you don't need these things. Apple and Amazon are the two where it really does get tricky.
And Netflix is now playing big. Obviously, K-pop Demon Hunters was a surprise hit. They did bring it to the theaters, but I don't think that was the original intention for a short period of time. And maybe Ted Sarandos says, you know what? People will still watch it on Netflix, but we could make a lot of money in theater.
Don't get me started on this whole thing with Ted Sarandos.
Yeah.
Well, no, because Ted has multiple times talked about how theaters are an outdated concept, blah, blah, blah. But now they're talking a little bit more about, like, they did the Stranger Things finale in theaters and some of the stuff. So they're experimenting a little more with it. And that was why I never trusted Netflix when they were the ones in the buyer's seat for Warner Brothers. Yes. Oh, we're going to commit to a 45-day theatrical window. Oh, don't worry. I didn't trust Ted Sarandos for a fucking second. I'm sorry, I forgot if I can curse on your show, but like,
well, that's okay. This is more adults. I think if the kids are listening to this, then hey, you know what? They're old enough. But I did love at the Oscars where Conan O'Brien really made some jokes right at Ted, and of course, right on his face, he had to laugh, ha ha ha.
Yeah, but anyway, so I Ted Sarandos is very, but they do seem to be experimenting with it more. But the thing is, Netflix is never going to be, because they're doing the big thing with Narnia this year. The Greta Gerwig Narnia movie that's going to go to IMAX later this year in November.
Wow.
But theater owners are pissed about that because Netflix is going to have it in taking up IMAX screens for like 3 weeks, and then it's going to go right to Netflix. And theater owners are like, why are we prioritizing these IMAX screens and premium format screens for a movie that is not actually getting a full theatrical release? And so it's like, there's a little bit of tension there. And so, Netflix could be a very strong ally to theaters. They don't even have to do like 45. You could put some of these things in theaters, and it's like, because they don't care.
Give them better terms, even
give them better terms when it does, like, because they only put stuff in theaters when they want to qualify for awards for the most part, or like when you just want to like appease a filmmaker like Rian Johnson for the Knives Out movies, like you give them a token release, and it's like it doesn't really mean anything, and so it's
Ryan. Yeah, the biggest buzz right now is popcorn buckets. Those things sell crazy. Give them you get like all of the money from the popcorn buckets.
Well, they pretty much do already. Like, my understanding is like, so the studios will get like, they manufacture. I might be wrong about this if anyone knows, but I think what it is, once the theater buys them basically, and that's what sucks though, is the theaters have to buy them, and so if they don't sell them, they're kind of out the money. So it's like it's a bit of a risk reward thing with the popcorn buckets. But
yeah, and not everything is the Dune.
The
popcorn bucket,
the fuckable Dune popcorn bucket.
But Ryan, I think this one's gonna be a big hit. Let me get rid of this. The Yoshi.
The Yoshi one. The Yoshi one is
$50.
Kids are gonna get it.
Nintendo adult Nintendo fans have limitless buckets of money to spend on popcorn buckets.
Well, and I think the problem I have is that I have this one from Scream 6 a couple of years ago. I have the Ghostface one. I never use it. I eat popcorn all the time.
What was that like? It was it just a head, or what was
just a big Ghostface head that opens up in the back? But then the Alamo Drafthouse now has a Godzilla one that I want desperately, and I'm like, and you eat out of Godzilla's mouth, and I'm just like, but I'm like, I can't justify it. And right now, even as I'm saying this, I'm like, I bet I could do like a payment plan and just do like those, pay in 4. And I'm like, the Alamo Drafthouse Godzilla one is incredible. But yeah.
What is that? What is that specifically for? Is that
they're doing release? Like Godzilla like tie-ins this year.
Oh,
and okay. Yeah, $45. Look at how cool that is. Look at how great that is.
Oh my goodness, I love that. Just fun fact, at Universal Studios in Hollywood, we went there in January. It was a lot of fun. Of course, I went to LA when it was raining, like crazily, which is sucked, but I still had a great time. And one of their stores, they have a kind of a chibi looking dinosaur, which I think is supposed to be part of Jurassic Park, maybe, but it's actually it's actually from a manga in Japan called Gone, about a really weird little pissed off dinosaur. Super cute. I wish I would have bought it, but I had no room to put it in my baggage.
Yeah, no, but I'm an enormous Godzilla fan, and I also, fun fact, Universal Studios Hollywood, probably my favorite theme park that I've ever been to. I love it.
Oh, it was great. We went on the tour. We did all that stuff. The Fast and Furious ride was not ready yet, but it looks very cool when you're walking.
Universal Studios is if you are a pop culture person in general, Universal Studios Hollywood is a gift.
Yes, absolutely. So that was amazing. It's interesting what theaters are doing to make money. We have seen concerts become a big deal, which is BTS.
Huge money for concerts. Huge. People, incredible.
Which I think is amazing, because I was thinking about this. I love Broadway, and the fact that most people can't afford a real Broadway ticket, can't afford a trip to New York, and seeing it on the big screen like that would be amazing. Just even a live cinecast or whatever of they did that with opera, even like the one thing
Yeah,
they do opera events. So I wish they do that more of that, because I think people would love the opportunity. Maybe charge $20 for
well, but
maybe a
Fathom has
premiere
done
event.
that quite a bit with
Yeah,
opera and stuff like that. But even like,
yeah.
but I remember it was, oh, when did oh man, SNM2. If you're a Metallica fan, they did SNM2, I believe, in 2021.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the Alamo Drafthouse did live stream showing of the concert. And obviously, I can't go to San Francisco and see the concert. So I'm in a sold out screening at the Alamo Drafthouse with a bunch of Metallica fans. And they literally had it so loud that it clipped the speakers and it shut off.
Wow.
It was awesome. It was awesome. And so it's like, it probably didn't even register at the box office, but for those Alamo Drafthouse locations, they had sold out screenings, and it was great. And it was fantastic. And it's like, and so stuff like that is like, specialty programming for theaters is such a sly, great way of getting people in for sure.
And I can tell you that was my experience when I was a 8-year-old kid. For WrestleMania 2 was shown on closed circuit TV. I think that's what they used to call it, or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they showed it at the Flint IMA Arena. I lived close to Flint, Michigan. My dad took me as a little kid because I knew I would never get to see a WrestleMania. So they showed it live, and the crowd was huge, and we just had a blast. And little Todd was so excited about it. And I'm like, that's such an amazing thing. Obviously, now you have Peacock and other places showing.
Yeah.
But still, those things that are kind of like out of your reach, a band that will never tour your area because you live in, parts unknown. I think,
or even just like the Taylor Swift concert was such a good example of like, those tickets were outrageously expensive for like, for even like, if you're like, and I hate that about concert tickets now. I was just talking about this with a friend last night. Like, it's so expensive it's prohibitively expensive to see most bands. And like, but then to give that experience to people, like, that's like, I don't care. You don't have to like Taylor Swift. That's fine. But like, she is undeniably like a very popular pop star. And I actually really respect her for being like, okay, obviously it was a good money decision, but to be like, okay, let's like give people, way more people, access to this thing. Like, it's good business, but it also is just like, it's extending an olive branch. People can afford to go to a movie. You can't necessarily afford $2,000 for a ticket. And it's like, I think it's good business for the right bands. I really do.
I really agree. And I think even like what you're seeing with Vegas Sphere, where you're seeing these artists that are performing there, almost like now it's the residency is there. And I've been to the Sphere once just to see the standard movie that they show. I forgot who, there was a director who made the movie.
Steven Soderbergh did like the animal thing. Yeah.
It was very neat. It was a very cool experience, but I'm like, I can imagine that would be fun. Even like the Wizard of Oz doing that run at the Sphere. And my friend just went and saw it. Amazing.
Millions of dollars, by the way. I reported on this last year. Millions of dollars.
Especially when Vegas needs it, right?
Well,
Vegas needs that money because,
But they're talking about doing other movies, of course. They've had conversations with Disney about Star Wars potentially, but there's concerns because they had to do alterations for the Wizard of Oz to make it work. So there's concerns about like altering. But yeah, it's but speaking of Metallica, they just announced that Sphere residency, and the tickets they're outlandish, and it's like, I would kill to do that, but it's just so out of reach. It's just impossible.
So once again, an opportunity that, it's like a lot of things. You're not going to lose money. You'll make money because they can only fill up that place so much, and they will sell all those tickets anyways. So I don't think there's a losing opportunity.
Probably not.
So,
Yeah.
So Ryan, I could talk all day to you about these concepts, but this is kind of what I listen to you for. And I hope people hear this and like, oh, this is awesome. Love hearing all of these details about the really changing face of entertainment as we're in. But I want to get into a little bit more of like your work really quickly. I know we're running along, but I think we hit these pretty quickly. You did mention your favorite thing you've done was the columns that you wrote. But is there any other like story or interview you'd say like were your favorite that you've done?
Yeah, so I have two, and they're not box office related. But my favorite single article that I've ever written was for an old website that I wrote for called MovieWeb. You can look up, but I would talk about Universal Studios. So Jurassic Park's my favorite movie of all time. Growing up, I didn't have money to go to theme parks, things like that. Jurassic Park, the ride, was a thing for years and years and years, and I never got to go, and I always wanted to go. And then in, I believe it was 2019, it was closing. They announced that it was closing. And I text my buddy Dana, who lives in California. I said, we're going. We have to go. And we talked about it. So we went the very last weekend that Jurassic Park the ride was open in Universal Studios Hollywood. And I wrote saying hello and goodbye to Jurassic Park the ride. And I sort of documented my whole experience of doing this thing that I wanted to do my whole life, but like for the first and last time. And it was incredible. Like
what year was the article made?
2019, I believe. But you can just look up saying hello and goodbye to Jurassic Park the ride.
Okay, I was just going through there in MovieWeb. Just found your like Ryan Scott's MovieWeb. And
yeah, but saying hello and goodbye to Jurassic Park the ride is the name of the article, and it was like. It more than lived up to my expectation. It was it's one of my favorite days of all time. We talk about it, me and my buddy Mike and Dana, who went that day. It was like the greatest day. It was the best. It was amazing. It was incredible. And just getting to sort of document and write about that experience and sort of, it was so great. And so that's one of my favorite things. And then the other favorite one that I have is talked about my love of horror. Sinister, the horror movie from 2012, directed by Scott Derrickson, written by C. Robert Cargill. For Slashfilm, I did an oral history of Sinister. And so I talked to Derrickson, Cargill, a bunch of the production people, thousands and thousands of words. I did this gigantic oral history of Sinister at 10 years old for its 10th anniversary. And that was just an incredible thing to get to do. So, so those are the two that I think stand out above all else.
Excellent. I was typing in, and I will put these in the notes so people.
The only other one that I would mention is that after Star Wars: The Last Jedi came out, Admiral Akbar dies in Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and I love Admiral Akbar. I was genuinely like, I'm not being ironic. I genuinely love Admiral Akbar as a character, and I was devastated. And so I wrote Admiral Akbar's obituary as if it was in universe.
I love that.
So you can look up, if you just Google the words Admiral Akbar obituary, my article is the one that comes up. So that's like my dumb little claim to fame as a huge Star Wars fan, is that I wrote Admiral Akbar's obituary. So I it's like one of my favorite things I've ever done. It was a stupid pitch and I loved it.
As an aside, there was a very short-lived fun show on ABC. It was about a journalist, and she would see the ghosts of the people she had to write obituaries about. It was very fun. So you might get a kick out of it, since that was a gig,
okay.
Because the obituary gig is, at newspapers is always something
bleak.
People do. A lot of them are always like pre-prepared too, especially famous people, right?
Yeah.
So
yep.
I just thought it was interesting, because then she got to see as the ghost, they were basically unresolved until she wrote the obituary and submitted it. They stuck with her. So it was just a cool little show. I'll have to remember the name of it. I really enjoyed it. Very fun. So realistically, let's move into, I was going to ask you something, but I'm like, I want to keep this positive.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Well, it's kind of actually similar, because I think you hit on a lot of these things, but basically what's been the most challenging part of this? Obviously, you talked about the journalism in a whole is kind of at a crisis center.
It is. Yeah. So that's by far the hardest thing is being able to adapt to the times we're in, where, especially now with AI taking so much traffic, people don't realize Google's AI results now, that's taken 20% right off the top from people's traffic.
Gemini, right? It's not even like you have to go past the first thing, because that's typically the Gemini results, and then once you get to there, I think it's same thing with if you use Edge, which is Microsoft browser. I think it's Copilot, and I'm sure if you go to Safari, it's the same thing there. I think probably it's Gemini.
Also and that's forgetting everything else. So it is more challenging than it has ever been to be able to just even get traffic for articles and things like that. And you have even just going back a handful of years, Twitter accounts, I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus, but Twitter accounts discussing film, where yes, they have a website, but anytime there's a bit of casting news, they just put it up on Twitter right away with no article information. So people have no reason to read your article about it.
Yeah. And my wife always talks about editorial restrictions and guidelines,
Yeah.
and just even let editorial matter of like getting it right versus fast.
Well,
And
speed is everything. If you don't get, especially if it's news, if you don't get it up soon, just don't do it at all, because you're not going to get any readership out of it. So, yeah, it's been very challenging to adapt to those times. And I don't need to tell anyone who does this the amount of very qualified people in entertainment journalism who are unemployed right now. And it's a shame, but there's nowhere for them to go for the most part. Like it's crazy. It's crazy. And so the industry's kind of just crumbling, and it sucks. And then you have everyone who's unemployed trying to write like a Substack or a newsletter, and no one has the available money to pay for that. So like, it's just, that's been the challenge for sure. Look, I agree wanting to keep it positive, but it is important that people understand that this is incredibly difficult right now. And
oh, absolutely. My intent was not to bring you down.
No, but it's like, but I know it's not like I don't know. It's not like, it's fine. I'm okay to tell. It's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and I've tried to be as supportive of everyone, but to your point, you can only go so far because you can only have 18 different Substacks or this or that, and even now it's like people are doing their own podcasts, which are great. I love it. Like even one of my favorite was back in the day, IGN had some really good movie and TV podcasts, which I loved, and I've kept up with Matt Fowler and Eric Goldman on what they do with the We Enjoy podcast. They're fun, they're great. But Eric Goldman was over at Fandom, and he was let go. And Matt Fowler is still he does a lot of like basically freelance work for IGN. So I always see his name up on certain things.
Yeah,
he's the go-to guy for certain things. So,
but just to give you an idea, the last statistic I saw is there's approaching 5 million different podcasts.
But of course, this one is the one you're watching right now is one of the most important ones. So please.
Right, no, but like
no, oh yeah.
People talk about pivoting, like, oh, why don't you start a podcast? And I'm like, I did way back in the day before it was like, but I'm like, do you have any idea how hard it is to like actually have that be a functional business? Like it's impossible,
unless you're a celebrity, right? Or you're somebody that's
that's the problem. Is more and more celebrities who already have an automatic fan base are moving into the space. And they make it even harder for the average person to just. And then if you're doing a podcast, you have to have a Patreon, and you have to have, and that's for the people
advertise.
That's the people that want to make a business out of it. Like, and so like, it's impossible.
And I just do mine for fun, and
sure.
I did do a Patreon. It was mainly just to keep the lights on, pay for those things, so I didn't have to tell my wife, "Hey, I just spent X amount on this."
Right.
But yeah, I don't do it to make a dollar. I do it to talk to cool people and get people, hopefully more listeners and followers of the awesome stuff.
I tell anybody that like if you want to do a podcast or anything, that's great. You got to do it because you want to do it, not because you think it's going to make you money.
Yeah, I do it. It's my wife says you need to do this for my social networking, my love of talking to people and finding connections across the interweb when it gets really dire out there. So with that, so Ryan, if there's any poor souls who did want to go into this area of journalism, whether it's entertainment, sports, whatever, for the love of it and hopefully to make a career in it, what would you recommend from education, skills, training, or just experiences?
All right. Couple things. I do not have a bachelor's degree. I have an associate's degree. And I freelanced in college, and I quickly understood that experience was going to help. I didn't want to work at CNN, right? Like, so like I knew that like experience was going to help me. All right, here's a couple things. One, the first thing that I will tell anybody, especially now, if you are looking into journalism of any sort, as your school, as your profession, whatever, if you can picture yourself doing anything else, even if you won't love it as much as journalism, do something else. If you can't picture yourself doing anything else, still consider doing something else. If at that point you still say, this is my calling, this is what I'm going to do, understand, you will not have a high standard of living. Period. End of discussion. Like, unless you get lucky and you can be one of those like individual news anchors that does like a news podcast that takes off, or you work for one of the big networks or whatever. Like, at least as the industry exists currently. Like things could change, who knows? But like there is no money in this, and it is harder than it's ever been to get a job, especially if you want to do sports, entertainment. Those areas are more competitive than anything else. Entertainment, particularly, like I start a podcast with your friends, have a job, and hope it takes off. Like, don't like, especially if you want to be like a critic, if you think journalism is going to lead you to being a critic that gets paid, no critics, like, no, I know like 2 people that are full-time movie critics that have a salary. So don't like understand that the deck is so hilariously stacked against you at this point. And I'm not trying to tell anyone how to live their life. I just want anyone that wants to do this to understand that this is what it is. And it's only going to get harder as I can see it. So if you arrive at that decision, be very careful about, if you are going to go to school, what level of debt you're going to take on to do it, because the money probably won't be there. So be very wary of debt. If you want to get a bachelor's degree, don't take out a tons of loans to do it. Don't, like, again, I did an associate's degree that I didn't have to take out loans to do, and I was able to. So, freelance, get experience. I think having a piece of paper that gets you credentialed is fine, but you can go to a community college. You can do what they have media studies. Mesa Community College in Arizona, I will tell you, I believe the most attended community college in the country. It's incredible. I had a great experience. It was wonderful. Don't overextend yourself. You do need training. There are ways to get it, so I just, you just have to, and I think this is true of college in any area now, where like you have to be wary of, like, if you're taking on a lot of debt and the market you're entering isn't lucrative, that's not going to work out well for you. So, just that's my advice. Be careful, and be very, very sure it's what you want to do. And I do think having a backup plan is essential now. I had a backup plan, and AI and all these other things have kind of wiped out what used to be my backup plan. So, be prepared.
So Ryan, just a little back on me to really talk about what you're mentioning is, the reality and whatever. I thought I wanted to be a doctor. I have my degree is in nursing. I am not a nurse today.
Right.
My life took a pivot, and now I'm in supply chain, and I really love it to pieces because it allows me to do the things I love, which is work with teams cross-functionally, come with interesting solutions. But a lot of people would be bored to death by it. But I try to find a little bit of my passion for certain areas that pay out. My son right now is going for a music education degree to be a music teacher. He thankfully will have a job because of his scholarship with the school district. He'll be a teacher there. But I always told him, because originally he wanted to be an engineer. So he's very smart. So I said, I want you to be passionate, follow your passion, but also understand that you have to still pay. So I have no doubts that if being a music teacher doesn't work out, considering, hey, it seems like we're defunding a lot of the arts at our schools, maybe he can turn that into something else. So he's really getting into, like you mentioned before, music production. He really wants to do that, and we'll see where that plays out.
Yeah, you have to find the transferable skills, right? Like that's the big thing, is right. So like I knew that, like, okay, journalism is. I didn't just go, I want to be a writer. I was like, okay, I liked writing, but journalism is a job. And then the other thing that I knew was like, okay, like this is way before the advent of AI and stuff. So my thing was like, well, people always need people who can write stuff. So I'm like, even if journalism doesn't work out, I can do copywriting, I can do technical writing, there's all these things that you can. Now, the problem is AI, those are the things that went first, is like general copywriting. And so like, but there was a potential fallback, right? So like so I was trying to think pragmatically. And I really encourage people who want to enter journalism now to think about that. It's like, what's your fallback? Because you can't rely on this entirely anymore.
Yeah, there's interesting. My wife's in the same, she has a journalism degree, and she does now work in public relations. And yeah, it's just the way it works out. So with that, Ryan, you've watched a lot of movies. I will honestly say my pile of shame of movies I have not watched that I want to watch continues to grow every year. There's great movies coming out. So if there was one movie that you'd say is not on everybody's radar, you'd say, you know what, this movie is underwatched, needs to be seen, what would that recommendation be to everyone listening now?
Two come to mind. One is a 2016 absolute gem called Sing Street. As in sing, it's technically a musical, I guess. I really don't like musicals, but it's about this band in Ireland that forms at this like Christian school amidst like a bit of an economic downturn and stuff. And it is one of the most charming, wonderful, feel good, excellent. It should have been nominated for Best Picture. It got released in the summer and just got buried. But Sing Street is one of the only movies I've ever recommended to people that I've never, ever, ever heard a single bad thing about. It is universally wonderful.
And it's a movie, not a documentary.
It is a movie. It is a movie. It's just it's a narrative feature. A guy named Rob Carney directed it. But it is so good. I saw it at Phoenix Film Festival years ago. And it just like was one of those movies that I knew nothing about, and it just won me. I mean, I love it to pieces. There is a musical number in it for a song the band writes called "Drive It Like You Stole It." I believe it was nominated for a Golden Globe, but like it is one of the most wonderful. Like that scene in that movie it makes my heart sing. Like it just makes me it gives me goosebumps like how good it is. It is so wonderful. Like the movie is just so damn like feel good, wonderful, just it's so good. So Sing Street. But then the other one that really flew under the radar last year was The Life of Chuck. It was a Stephen King adaptation from Mike Flanagan. It was Neon bought it. I think they thought it was going to be like a Best Picture contender. Again, they released it in the summer. It just kind of got buried. The Life of Chuck instantly became one of my favorite movies of all time. I am not kidding. It is a beautiful like celebration of life. And I'm going to try not to end this by crying, but I worked with a man named Scott Wampler at Fangoria briefly. He was a very kind of a legend in my circles. He worked at Birth Movies Death. He was a co-host of the KingCast podcast. Scott Wampler was, when you talk about a beloved person, Scott Wampler was beloved. I didn't know him as well as others did, but I was lucky enough to work with him. He's one of the funniest people. The way that I put it, Scott Wampler on the internet was the funniest person online. Like he was the funniest person. Scott died last year, and Mike Flanagan dedicated the movie to him. And but Scott Wampler was like one of those guys that like he was alive, you know, and the movie works as such a great celebration of life, and Scott was wonderful. And it I promise you the movie has nothing to do with like my love for the movie has like nothing to do with the fact that like it is dedicated to Scott. It just ends up being like a wonderful testament to him. And but yeah, it is such a like again one of those like there's so many movies that like you know they're like feel bad movies that we like or they're apocalyptic or they're The Life of Chuck is such a like it makes you want to live life, and it is such a like you know, and it's not for everyone, but like it's another one that I just like. It, you know, it just makes me sob. You know, like in like
Mike Flanagan directed that.
Yeah, like the horror master Mike Flanagan, but it's based on a Stephen King novella, and but it is just it's a wonderful movie. And you know, I wish it had sort of done better, but so those are the two that come to mind. They're both feel good movies. They're both going to make you feel. I think there's a lot of things happening right now that maybe aren't great, but yeah. So if you just need something to make you feel like life is worth living, both of those are just truly wonderful.
Well, thank you for those. I like I said, I just like to cut through, find out what people like, because typically that may be my next favorite movie, which is great. I'm not a rewatcher typically, because I always say, well, that's one less new movie experience I get to have.
I'm a huge rewatcher. I am a whore for like the things that I love.
Well, that means that means you get to do less of other things, but you get to focus on the things you love.
I love like showing people the stuff that I love, right? Like I love like anytime someone's like, I've never seen Heat, I'm like, all right, you got 3 hours, let's go. You know, I'm just like,
yeah, we are in the same boat. Our friends have told us that like there was a movie we had neither of it, my wife and I had seen. They're like, okay, well, we're showing that to you the next time we hang out. I'm like, perfect. I love that too. People sharing their things that they love makes them feel so happy to find new appreciate fans of it. So then we're going to go a little bit more like just in the near future. The summer movie box office is coming up, I believe. Are we counting on? Let's see. It would be the movie The Devil Wears Prada 2. Is that considered the start of the summer movie?
Generally, kind of that like first weekend of May. Really, May is where it kicks off. So yeah, I guess like Devil Wears Prada 2 and then Mortal Kombat 2. Those are kind of like where you would probably consider summer starting.
Do you have what are your most anticipated movies this summer?
Look, I always joke that Star Wars is as close as I have to religion. So obviously I feel like there's a lot of cynicism around Mandalorian and Grogu.
I think so too. Yeah.
But I think that's more in our circles. I feel like the average person who just likes the Mandalorian, I hope
so.
And they like Grogu.
I hope so.
The last trailer was like, that looks like fun. It looks fun. I don't think
we need a fun Star Wars
but
movie.
I also think that's important. Yeah. Not every Star Wars can be the biggest thing in the history of anything. I think it's important that. So I'm very excited for the Mandalorian and Grogu. I don't know what to tell you. Look, but Spielberg is my guy. Like Spielberg going back to sci-fi and aliens. So like Disclosure Day, is big. Obviously, like Nolan's got the Odyssey coming out. Those are, but I'm a blockbuster whore. Those are my things, right? Like the one that I'll point out that isn't getting a lot of attention is David Robert Mitchell, who people will know from It Follows and a movie called Under the Silver Lake that got burned real bad a handful of years ago. He is directing a movie that was formerly known as Flower Vale Street. It is apparently called The End of Oak Street right now. It has Ewan McGregor and Anne Hathaway in it. While no plot details have been confirmed, it is apparently a dinosaur movie set in the 80s. And so
I saw that. I'm like, what is this movie? I don't know anything about it.
So it's not on anybody's radar. It got delayed a while. I don't really know why, but that is a movie that I'm like deeply, deeply, deeply invested in. Because we need dinosaur. We need dinosaur cinema that is not Jurassic Park. So it was known as Flower Vale Street. Now it has apparently been retitled to The End of Oak Street. I do not know. Although, funnily enough, so here's the funny part. If both these movies keep their release date, August 14th, there's also Paw Patrol 3, the Dino movie, coming out that same weekend.
Wow.
So we might have two very, very different dinosaur movies coming out on the same weekend. But
Steven Spielberg was involved with the Land Before Time, and I remember there was another animated dinosaur film like in the 90s.
We're Back. The Dinosaur Story.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so there's been and then we had the dinosaurs from the ABC series, Not the Mama. So you know what, Ryan? So, and then I think you had another been some other interesting ones, but I'm all for more dinosaur opportunities.
Last year, Primitive War. If you did not see Primitive War, made by a director named Luke Spark, it's like 2.5 hours long. It's dinosaurs in the Vietnam War. He made it for less than $10 million somehow, and it is loaded with it is like blockbuster level. So that was one of the movies I championed last year, Primitive War. It's not going to win any awards for acting, but it is, if you're a blockbuster junkie like me and you just can enjoy like popcorn delights and silliness, Primitive War is incredible.
Is it better than the Adam Driver dinosaur sci-fi?
Oh, 65? I like 65. Yeah. I
never
65.
saw it. I was interested in that, but I never saw it.
It's super fun. It's like 90 minutes. It just moves. It looks great. A big proponent of 65.
Oh, excellent. And then I think there's a Sinister movie opening at the end of August, right?
No, that is Insidious.
Insidious? Okay. So I do not get any of these correct. I'm like, I don't know which one's in which. Insidious, Sinister, and then there's the what's the Ed and Lorraine?
The Conjuring.
The Conjuring. So I get all those movies screwed up. I don't know which one's in which pocket of which. So Insidious is the new one. Okay, great. Okay, awesome. So yeah, I will be kicking off our summer movie wager. We're going to be having it open in our Discord if anyone would like to join us. So I'd be excited. And Ryan, if you'd like to put your submission in, I'd be curious to see what you think. You can even do it under a pseudonym so people don't know. So you can I'm too much of
a self-centered individual to like be that way. If I'm going to do something, like want people to know. So if I did it, I would do it. I would fully be like, this is me. Got it.
Okay. Yeah. You're going to, yeah. So very good. Just fun fact on our wager, we used to have a traveling trophy, whoever won it, and it was a like one of those cheap plasticky, I don't know, like 10-inch tall Prince Zizor from Star Wars.
The Shadows of the Empire.
Yes, so that was the traveling trophy. We always joked about it. It was like $3 from a gift shop, and it just ran around. That was the trophy. So he is now been retired.
Big Shadows of the Empire guy here. I have the vinyl soundtrack, and then I also have the original comic run that like coincided with the novel and the video game. Yeah, so I have the.
It's the only Star Wars novel I ever read, because in college, when you got something Star Wars at that time, you were very excited.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, Ryan, before we leave, what are the things that you're working on that people should look forward to? If there's anything you can announce or just share, or if you can't, then just give us a teaser.
So people miss me talking about the box office stuff on Slashfilm, because Slashfilm Daily, the podcast, went to Slashfilm Weekly last year. So we don't have as much time for the podcast, the box office stuff anymore. But me and Ben Pearson, we now do he has a Patreon called Pop Cultured. And then as part of that, we do a podcast called Movies Now More Than Ever on Mondays. But it's paywalled on Patreon. So we don't have free episodes. It's paywalled. But if people miss hearing me talk about box office stuff on Mondays, I don't do a great job of advertising it, but we do called Movies Now More Than Ever under the Pop Cultured Patreon. So there are tiers of the Pop Cultured Patreon. It is the second tier up where you get access to Movies Now More Than Ever. And yeah, so if you missed that is where you can find me doing that. Yes. So they have a Simpsons rewatch podcast. They do like a general weekly, but yeah, we do box office every week. So so if you want to head to the Pop Culture Patreon, we would greatly appreciate your support. But I know funds are tight right now, things like that. But I just, if you miss me doing that, that's where I do that now. So that's the thing that I would point people to.
Excellent. Yeah, I've joined. I love listening to you. And Ryan, I would recommend maybe you just toss one of those episodes out for free, like an older one, because I think that allows people to
sure.
Then say,
so the only thing I'll say is it's not my thing. Like Ben runs Pop Cultured, and he asked me to do this part of it. I do my part of it. He and I have been talking. We need to get a little bit better about trying to like,
because you're there, right? And it's like people may not they want to hear, or if they've never heard
we've been doing it for a while now, so we kind of need to. But anyway, it's what's the saying? Not my monkeys, not my circus. Like it is my monkey. Yes. Like it is a little bit, but like I don't run.
It's your baby, but not your home or whatever.
Sort of, yeah.
The baby
like
lives in the foam. Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So, but no, I'm enormously proud of it. I love doing it. Ben is one of the greatest people in the world. I love him dearly, and I love getting to do it with him. Ben's the best. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. So check Ryan out there, and then obviously follow your socials, which are
at Ryan Scott Writes, as in WRITES. Ryan Scott Writes on BlueSky and Threads, where I'm most active these days. I'm also on Instagram, but I mostly just post photos after me running. I'm a recreational runner. I guess an amateur athlete, I suppose. I've done enough races now where I guess you could say that.
You're hardcore, man. I see what you do out there, and I'm like, that's pretty awesome. So yeah, if you want running tips, ask Ryan.
Yeah, I'm nothing to aspire to, but yeah. So that's that's where I'm at these days. If you want to follow my adventures doing whatever the hell I do, at Ryan Scott Writes. Yeah. BlueSky, I think I'm most active on Threads as well. But yeah, no longer on Twitter. Can't do it. Can't justify it anymore. So.
No, I totally agree. I'm on Instagram, Blue Skies, and obviously then Instagram goes to Threads, so it's kind of easy. It's an easy mix there. Well, very good, Ryan. Thank you so much for joining us. I do most of this for myself, but hopefully those who are listening will learn something about what you do, and if they are interested in potentially making this a career or maybe even a hobby that turns into more, I'm glad they got to hear your thoughts on what you need to be successful, and hopefully they can follow their dreams and still pay the bills.
Can I ask, Todd, how long do these episodes normally go?
About this long. They go longer than expected. I always say an hour, and then it's just, if we're having a good time and no one says, "Oh, I'm falling asleep," I say, okay, we can wrap this
I
up.
just
So
wanted to make
always,
sure we weren't like because I tend to talk a lot, so I wanted to make sure I wasn't like making you go like 30 minutes over your usual, you know.
No, I would be worried if this went really short because I'm like, oh, somebody didn't have a good time or someone doesn't
Sure.
like to talk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I try to let this go as long as someone still wants to talk, and we stay on some type of topic because I know myself to tangent may not be interested in everybody else. So I try to at least let it focus on anybody listening for the first time, so they can enjoy it. And but Ryan, I think if I had a good time, that means probably anybody that listens to will also have a good time. And so thank you once again. I love speaking to you. You're always welcome to come back on Best Things This Week to talk about what you loved in the world beyond just movies and box office, because we did it once and I had a blast. And I hope that's something you'd like to do in the future too. And it's not
Anytime, invite me back. I owe you one or two for sure. So like, please, and I promise I'll put it in my calendar next time. Yeah, for real. But yeah, no, I'd be happy to come back. I've had a great time.
awesome. Well, thank you, Ryan. But for everyone else who's listening to this, thank you for checking out the Fandom Foundry's MakerCast. We now have added a network feed for podcasting, so you get all of our shows at one feed, so you don't have to have 18 different feeds. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, really. We're on YouTube. We have a Discord. We have a website. We have a link tree for all the ways to reach us, and we also have a website that has all of our cool information. So with that, thank you for joining us, and thank you to all the makers that make things great. And we'll see you next episode. Bye, all.